How's it going? I'm Ryan, and today I'm going to go over the three trades that I took on SPY. The first was break even, the second trade was a loser, the third trade was a winner. Before we get into those three trades though, we are on the daily time frame. I'll look at some of the levels I was watching and why. First level that came into play today was this 470.5. It was top of this big push up, top of this wick once we broke below. We also showed that we held that area for support, and yesterday it happened to be very close to the low of day. So that level confirmed some strength, whether it be resistance below it or support once we were above it. Next level I was watching, I added intraday. Once we started breaking down, I was looking for another target a little closer because the next level I had was this 468.38. So I added this during the day once I saw we were trending down as a potential target. This came from the low of this day here, December 14th. As well as on the hourly chart, we held that level really well before reversing on this day, the 21st. So that was one that I was watching as well. We have this 468.4-ish level that was off the hourly. We'll take a look at that in just a second. And finally, we have this 467.5. This 467 to 466 area, pretty critical for me in terms of, do we bounce here or do we break and continue this downtrend? We've set the 52-week high, sort of having a bit of a pullback, and this is an area that we found support after pullbacks before, especially this large selling day. If this 467 to 466 area breaks, we have a new low, and it seems like this downtrend might continue, or conversely we could find support, bounce, and maybe continue this uptrend. So pretty important area, and with the way things are going, maybe we test that in the coming days, or maybe we don't, but that's an area I'm watching. Didn't come into play today, but one for maybe this week or next. We'll take a look at the 4 hour and take a look at some of those levels. So what it looked like when we were opening yesterday, we had a bounce off this level in the pre-market and after hours. You can see we were pretty much just selling off from that point. We came down and were set to open below yesterday's low of day. So one thing I was looking at going into the day was opening, if we opened below yesterday's low of day, coming up and retesting this area that is shown to be a pretty key level in an area that we bounced from pretty heavily just yesterday. So breaking below and retesting, I was looking for a continuation down. That was my original trade idea, and that leads me to my first trade that I took. First trade that I took was puts on the second retest of yesterday's low. Right off the open, we kind of tested and rejected off that area. I don't trade off the open. I usually like to let 15 or so minutes go by. So on this second retest here, I got in. We'll take a look at, well, I'll throw this on as well, as it did play a little bit into my trade, the reasoning behind it. I don't know why it's moving my view every time I adjust that. All right. So as you can see, we'd been kind of selling off in the pre-market, respecting that 9 EMA pretty well. Off the open, we test it, reject, come up. We rejected here as well, came up and tested that yesterday's low of day and started to reject. And once we were, and the 9 EMA was a little higher at this point throughout the day. Obviously, this downtrend pulled it down, but we were testing the EMA and that high a day that we had rejected off of before, so I took a put here. Another reason I was feeling pretty good about that is it looked like we were forming a bit of a bear flag. We'd been selling off. We were increasing, or having, I guess, up. What am I trying to say here? We're having some buyers, but it was on decreasing volume is what I'm trying to say. So it didn't show a lot of strength. We were having long wicks to the upside. We were rejecting off the EMA and key levels. So I felt good to enter up here, as my stop would be a break somewhere up above this level, say probably 460 or 470.6, probably the area that I'd look to stop at. So entering close to my stop and ultimately targeting a break of this flag in continuation. I got in for one contract, so we'll take a look at the 2 minute. I think that flag is a bit more evident on the 2 minute. But took my contract somewhere in here around 470.4. We got this break. We came up, got this retest. This stopped me out at break even. So once we had broken that bear flag, came up and retested it, I had set my stop loss to break even as I entered up here. And I figured I was pretty safe. I was expecting continuation. Once we pushed up, this stopped me out, and it really shouldn't have. I should have probably set my stop based more on analysis, more on the chart rather than a number, because by setting it at break even, this push up stopped me out at break even right before reversing and getting that move. So I missed out on this. This was break even, no loss on this, but still not the greatest trade from me. Because we were still making lower highs. If you look, we are still making lower highs here. We didn't even come up and really retest that yesterday's low. So no real reason for me to exit from a technical analysis standpoint. It was purely just setting my stop at break even and having that push stop me out, unfortunately, with the way that the contract moved. So that was my first trade. Not a bad trade, but maybe some not so great execution on that. Second trade, and this is the bad one. This was my loser on the day, and this was a trade that was really not great. Second trade was puts. Excuse me, where was it? Where even was it? I believe it was, I think it will be, yeah, it was a lot more evident on the 2 minute. So puts were on this candle here, and it was the retest of this EMA up in here. So we had news come out at 8. You can see the reaction. I should have waited a full 5 minute candle to close. I did not. I was basing it off of the 2 minute, which was my bad. We were rejecting off this area in the morning. We also had the 9 EMA in that area. On the 2 minute, our first candle on the 2 minute pushed all the way up to test new highs. It set a new high of day before getting pushed all the way back down on massive volume. We also had a big volume on these sells before, and the news didn't come out very bullish either. So all these things combined, I took puts prematurely, thinking that we were going to get a pretty big sell-off off this news. So I got blasted here. I took them prematurely, and I held. Once we broke the high of day, that was where I was going to sell, because we had this massive candle wick. I was giving myself a bit of a longer leash here with the volatility that we were seeing, as I thought that there was a pretty good chance that we sold off. We did sell off, but I just played this really terribly. I didn't really wait for any sort of confirmation. This candle closing on high volume made me feel like a retest of this area up in here was going to give me that flush. We did not, so I got stopped out once we broke high a day. That was pretty much the immediate beginning of the reversal. So this play did work out. My contracts were up over 50% on this move down. I did not hold those though. I sold for a pretty big loss. I sold for like a 40% loss, or 30%, 40%. It was much bigger than I'd like to have taken. So entered too early, held too long, but maybe not long enough. It was just, I shouldn't have been trading the news. I gave it 2 minutes, and that was clearly not enough time for things to kind of settle from that. That was my big loss. Not huge. I did size up. I took 2 contracts, so it wasn't great. Like I said, it was a much bigger loss than I'd like to take. I didn't write them to zero. I didn't scale with my entire account. These contracts were very cheap, same day expiration. So that's why they lost so much, but also by losing so much, it was, like $50. It was not a ton of money. But regardless, bad trade, bad trade. And I should have known better. Third trade was not so bad, and actually a bit better. So during the day when we were falling, I was looking for a place that was likely for us to bounce. I'm gonna remove this. It's a little distracting. And I pulled up the hourly, I pulled up the hourly chart here. And I took a look and I saw that we bounced from this area once and twice, or this area right here. Saw we bounced off this area once and twice, So it was the low day on this candle. And it was near the low day. We held it on the hourly on this day. So Found that level, and as we were approaching it, was looking for a potential area for us to bounce. Once we came down and respected that on the 5-minute and on the 2-minute, and we were holding it on pretty high volume, that gave me the confidence to enter some calls in this area right here. I entered 470 calls. I was targeting 470.8, or sorry, excuse me, 469.8, because that was that general area that we had such a massive move to the upside from. So just kind of targeting a return to this area, as it was a likely area for a lower high in this move down. I did not expect us to rally up. I was simply looking for a scalp. So gotten calls down here and exited up in here. Exited first on this candle, or exited the first 2 on this candle when we pushed up. Took my profits. I had 3 cheap contracts. Took 2 of them off here. And then this push down stopped me out because I moved my stop loss up. I had 1 contract as a runner. This little move stopped me out, which was a good thing because we did sell off from that point. I mentioned while I was in the trade that this was actually a better place to enter puts. That's why I was taking profits here, as this was a likely area for a lower high to be formed in continuation of this sell-off that we had. So a better trade, and you can see a better trade would have been to wait and take puts, or maybe, scalp a call up into this area and then we immediately buy some puts once you see some of these wicks forming. Nonetheless, this was a winner. The thing that was really odd is I bought 3 contracts so I sized up to try to recover this loss. Not the greatest discipline. I broke some rules today as my first day back in a few weeks, and I think it should, but I entered a little bit bigger size because I wanted to recover some of this loss. And I was looking for a scalp, and I know to recover that, I would have to, size up a bit, as I'm not going to hold for some big move. That being said, my contracts did not move well at all. These calls, these 470 same day calls, moved maybe like 15% or so. Really not great. So that was really weird. I only made a few dollars off that with 3 contracts, less than $10 somehow. It was really weird, and I had a good entry. I had an entry, I think, somewhere around 469.3. Like once we started to hold in here, I entered. Really odd. They didn't move too well. I thought I might recapture some of that loss. I got very little of it back. But that's it. Those are the 3 trades that I took today. The first one pretty decent. Second one absolutely terrible. Third one pretty decent. So that's all I have for you. I appreciate you watching. As you can see, we kind of stayed in this channel. We'll back out a little bit. Not really necessarily a trend day. We kind of stayed within here and stayed within here. I guess we broke out of that right at the end of the day, but then pushed up and kind of retested it, and it looks like we're trending up in the after hours. So we'll see. We're kind of in this area, bouncing around. Maybe we come down and test that support tomorrow. Maybe we bounce from here. Who knows? But that's all I have. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. I do trade live every Monday through Friday, so I'll be here through the rest of the week. If you want to stop by, say what's up. That's all I got for you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out.